Hi everyone, my name is Shauna in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing my March 2021 reading wrap up. My goals for the month are going to be the same as my goals for next month, and I don't think I really share this too much online, but my goals that I made for myself in my brain for this month were to finish the book that I started in February and didn't finish in February, and to read one book for a book club that I'm in, because I'm in several book clubs and I just aim to read at least one book for the bunch of books clubs that I'm in each month. Then I was working on NetGalley arcs because I realized I was really behind on all of my NetGalley arcs. So let's crack on into this wrap up. The first book that I finished reading this month is Cool for the Summer by Dahlia Adler. This is an ARC or an advanced reader's copy of the book. This book comes out May 11th, so next month. This is the first time that I've received a physical ARC and read it, because the only other two physical arcs that I have I received after the publication date of the book, so this is like really exciting for me. First time having a physical arc before it actually comes out. But unfortunately, even though like I'm so excited to have a physical arc and to be able to read it before it came out, I was really disappointed by this book. This was one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and it was disappointing to me. Cool for the Summer follows Lara, and Lara's been crushing on this guy for like all of her time in high school, and then during the summer she goes to this beach with her mom and her mom's boss, and her mom's boss's daughter is there with them, and a love triangle sparks from that because when she goes back to school the guy is interested in her. It is a really interesting premise and it has lots of representation in it, so I was like really looking forward to reading it, but it just got on my nerves a little bit. It was too much like almost like a, like, I don't know, like why are you with someone when you clearly have feelings for another person? Like that's what was frustrating me the most, and the characters were also a little annoying. I think this definitely is for some people, but I'm not a huge reader of contemporary books, and this one just didn't work for me. The next book that I read this month wasn't actually one that I had on my goals, but when I look on Goodreads, the Castor Chronicles series that is by Kami Garcia and Margaret Stohl has a little novella that takes place between the second and the third book, and so I wanted to read that before I picked up the third book. So I read that. It was really short, read it in one night. It was called Dreamdark. Dreamdark follows Link mostly and like dealing with being sent on this little like mission thing. It deals with him after the events that happened to him in the second book. I'm really trying not to spoil it for everyone. I don't really think it changed the plot of the story, so I gave it 4 stars. Like you could easily skip it and still enjoy the series as a whole, but I found it interesting and fun because I really like Link, and that basically just focuses on Link. So yeah, I had to read that before I dived into the book that I read for a book club this month, and the book that I read for a book club was Beautiful Chaos. This is the 3rd book in the Beautiful Creature series. Now that it is April, I'm going to be finishing this series this month, and then in May, I think, yeah, in May I'm gonna start the Dangerous Creature series, hopefully, because I think my book club is reading it. I'm not sure. I have to double check, but we're definitely reading Beautiful Redemption next month, which is the 4th book. So this series, I have a love-hate relationship in it. It has some of my favorite fictional characters of all time, like Lincoln Ridley, but as a whole, the series just like, if you can tell, it's really thick. It goes on so long for no reason. Like a lot of it just feels like filler stuff to just expand the book and make it longer, and it's really, really slow. But at the same time, like the world in it is really, really interesting and complex, and I really like the characters, and it's like this book could have been absolutely perfect, but unfortunately they decided to make it as long as possible. This one in particular I gave 3 stars, which is the same rating that I gave the first book. I gave the second book 4 stars because that one was slightly better. The reason for giving this one 3 stars instead of 4 stars, since I did like the second book better, is because this one had a really, really depressing ending that really impacted me, and I wasn't expecting it to impact me as much. And there is a trigger warning in it for sacrificing yourself, and it was very depressing in the way that it did it, but like, I don't know. I don't want to say that it was like necessary, but I knew that that's what was coming because I saw a spoiler. Could it have ended differently? Like, did they have to go down that plot line? Not necessarily. I don't know. It was just weird, and I have really mixed feelings on the way that this book ended. And based on the way this book ended, the final book is going to be very, very bizarre. And then the rest of the books that I read this month were books from NetGalley, and NetGalley, in case you don't know, is where you request digital arcs or audiobook arcs. The audiobook arcs are digital, you don't get like a CD or anything, and so you get the books before they're published, and then you read the book and you review the book, and it's like you get a book in exchange for a review. So you're helping the author by giving them a review, and you're getting a free book out of it. So it's a pretty good deal, and I always feel like I'm doing something good by like helping authors get their book out there and like promote it when I read them, so that's why I do NetGalley. I'm really behind on the books, as I said, so I read 3 NetGalley books this month. The first one that I read is Violet City by Paige Morgan. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Violet City is an alien invasion book. It isn't very unique. It's like it felt like I'd read similar things to before, but I like alien invasion books, and so like it filled the craving that I had for an alien invasion book. I feel like Paige Morgan is an author who's great at writing romance because there was romance in the book. Wasn't a huge fan of the writing style, thought it was a little bit childish and middle grade-ish. The content was young adult, so I was a little confused on that. But overall, I did enjoy Violet City. It just is not my favorite book in the world. I will read the sequel if there is a sequel because it interests me enough to read the sequel. The next one that I read is Junior Hero Blues by J.K. Pendragon. Junior Hero Blues is a gay superhero story. That's all you need to know about it, and if that pitch doesn't sell you, I don't know what's going to get you interested in it. There's tons of representation in this book. It's sort of like funny and humorous. Again, it has sort of like a middle grade and childish writing style with young adult content, which doesn't quite work for me, but I'm sure it works for other people. Middle grade is much like quicker and much more like, I don't want to say bland, but like you can definitely tell when you're reading middle grade that it's meant for someone that's like under like 16, and that's what the writing style felt like. But again, content was young adult, so it was a little confusing to me. I gave Junior Hero Blues 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the characters, liked the story. My only complaint is the writing style. That did not work for me. But everything else about Junior Hero Blues I absolutely loved, and I hope there's a sequel because I'll definitely read it, and I really shipped the main couple. They were really cute. Oh, and I guess I read one more book that isn't a NetGalley book that I forgot about now that I'm checking. I read this short story called The Yellow Wallpaper. It's by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I read this for a book club. I wasn't planning on reading this, but then I realized that it was like really short, and so I just read it one night at like 2 in the morning when I was bored. The Yellow Wallpaper is an interesting story. There's lots of different interpretations from it. I still don't even know which interpretation I think is actually like what happened, so I don't want to like spoil too much. It is a classic short story classic book, so it is free on most platforms, and it's fairly easy to understand for a classic book, which I really enjoyed. And I was like, why couldn't we have read this one in school, because this would have been more interesting than the stuff that I read when I was in school. And it's a classic, so like you could get away with reading it in school, right? So it's basically about this woman who's documenting her journey and like writing in a journal, and she has moved to this house temporarily with her husband, and she is sick. The story really progresses from there. I don't want to spoil it because you should go into it with an open mind, but it just unfolds in a way that like you understand what's happening, but at the same time you don't understand enough that you still like can make your own theories about it and stuff. It's really interesting. It's a really great book for a discussion. If I were an English teacher in high school or college, I would definitely assign that one because it was so like well written and so like thought-provoking. I gave The Yellow Wallpaper 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. Really did. The final book that I finished this month was Bofuri, I Don't Want to Get Hurt, So I'll Max Out My Defense Volume 1, the light novel version, not the manga. So this was my first time reading a light novel. I'd heard of them, but I never really read them before, and I'm not a huge fan of the style of the light novel, but I did think that Bofuri, the story was fairly interesting, and I am going to be checking out the anime because I saw that that's on like Funimation, I think. Yeah, I have the Funimation app on my phone, so gonna probably watch that. So a light novel essentially takes a manga or an anime and it turns it into a novel. What I mean by a novel is like you have words like this, and it's not like a manga format. I'm not going to pull up manga right now, but I assume that most of you know what a graphic novel or manga looks like. So light novel essentially just turns it into a normal novel, but light novels are light. There isn't like elaborate language in them. They're fairly simplistic, just getting the story across. I almost wish that there would have been like more details and more like elaborate writing and not just like this plain writing just to get the story across, but I think from my research that's the way that most light novels are, so I might just like not read light novels that often, if at all, anymore. But Bofuri, which I'm probably saying wrong, is a VR-based game, and as the title suggests, the main character really works on building up her defense, and that's what sort of like makes it unique about it. I sort of really related to the main character because her strategy in the game is my strategy in the games. My brother sometimes makes fun of me because like when I play Pokemon, I only focus on one Pokemon the entire game and leveling them up. It's sort of a similar concept when she only works on her defense skills and nothing else. The world was pretty interesting. It is a fun virtual reality world. It would be fun if it were like a real game, you know? But that's really all my thoughts on that one. Didn't like the light novel format, liked the story, so 3 stars it is. I am reading another NetGalley book right now that I'll definitely be finishing next month, and the one that I'm reading right now is Rogue Untouched by Elisa Quitney. Rogue Untouched obviously follows Rogue from the X-Men. It is amazing so far, but I still have like 30% left, so maybe something will change. I don't know. I really like it so far, and I think it might be one of my new favorite books. So that's really all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. I've been doing more of my wrap-ups over on TikTok, but today I felt like sitting in front of a camera and talking about all the ones that I read because I had some strong thoughts on the ones that I read this month. All of my Goodreads and my book talk information and all of that will be linked down in the description below. Feel free to leave a comment down below with your favorite book that you read in March, and I will see all of you in my next video. Goodbye!